Now, in other news, the notorious Islamist preacher Andrew Choudary was found guilty of directing a terrorist organisation and encouraging support for it through online meetings yesterday.
Well, he faces life in prison after he was convicted yesterday of taking a caretaker role in an Islamist group.
Well, Dominik Lemanski is a journalist who has known Andrew Choudary for 20 years. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You've been reporting on this man, as we say, for many a year. Tell us something about him that we might not know. Just how prolific was he as an Islamist preacher in this country?
Well, my involvement with him goes back almost 20 years. I think since about 2006. Just the sheer number of terrorists that have been linked to him over the years, never failed to amaze me. That I could go to a coffee shop and meet with Anjem and end up speaking to a young man who a few years down the line would go and fight for ISIS.
It is extraordinary that this was a man who was almost hiding in plain sight. He had previous convictions, and yet he was still wandering around on the streets, spewing what he was always spewed, his support for the 9/11 terrorists, his associations with those who went off to fight for ISIS, and of course the conviction that has now befallen him, directing and encouraging support for al-Mujahirun. What is al-Mujahirun?
Well, al-Mujahirun is an extremist group of Islamist fanatics. It supposedly operates under a covenant of security, whereby it promises not to, harm the life or the well-being of the citizens it lives within. Unfortunately, the people that have been associated with it, acolytes of Anjem, disciples, followers, have taken his radical message and gone on to engage in physical criminal terrorist acts. So it was far more than the talking shop that Anjem tried to sell it as.
I tell you what, it makes people so angry that this man was allowed to spew this hatred, support for a caliphate, support for terrorism in the name of Islam in this country for so long. Why was he let out of prison to begin with, and early?
Well, I think that comes down to that's our laws. I think he got 5 years from my memory. He served half of it. He came out on license. There was a period when he was free, but he couldn't speak to the media or speak publicly or hold events. You'd have to go to the CPS and the courts and ask that, because he served his time for his first sentence. I know he didn't particularly enjoy it, but he became accustomed to it. He was in a separation centre, and he was more than willing to speak to me about it once he was released. And once his ban on speaking in public ended. What does amaze me is when I've listened back to tapes the last day or two since he was convicted, is that he almost predicted his own downfall about 3 years ago, speaking about how the American authorities were responsible for Abu Hamza's downfall. He was predicted his own.
Very interesting that he compared himself to Abu Hamza. What else did he tell you as soon as he was able to speak?
He was always very keen to walk around his local area. Last time I saw him, it was Ilford. Over the years, it changed. It went from Whitechapel to Leighton to Walthamstow. In Leighton, he always wanted to meet in a park, which I always thought was a bit strange. I think it was Draper's Inn Fields, as if he was worried that someone might be bugging him. It was always in an open space. And then all these
Dominik,
years
sorry to interrupt, but why do you think he wanted to speak to you?
I think he enjoyed the attention. I think he enjoyed being listened to. You know, I think he really, you know, being a troublemaker. I don't know where his sort of tradition, where him looking for a traditional job and a career went wrong, because he's a, you know, intelligent man, charismatic man, but decided to put it to this use of radicalizing young people into a very sort of toxic and extreme brand of Islam. Simply comes down to, I think, attention and popularity within and power within his circle.
Well, Dominik Lemanski, it's been fascinating to talk